All right, welcome everyone. We're going to have everyone trickle in and we'll kickstart today's session in just about 4 minutes here. So familiarize yourself with the screen a little bit. On the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see a Q&A box, and that's where you can post any questions throughout today's session. And then you'll also notice on the box, there's a chat box, and that is where we're going to post any links from today, as well as any resources that we think you'll find helpful. But we're so excited to have you here again, Mark. We have Mark from Juvo Jobs, who's going to be walking us through how to find loyal and retain your staff. So we're super excited for today's session. How's it going, Mark?
No complaints. A little chilly this time of year, but it's supposed to be. So I love colder weather.
Getting into the holiday season, there's nothing better than cozying up with, what's your preference? Cider, eggnog, or hot chocolate?
Bourbon.
Okay. I missed that one.
And
Hot
Chuck,
coffee?
who's not on with us, just laughed a little, I think.
I'm sure he did. That's
What's
great.
your choice?
I am definitely a hot cocoa girl, but my name is Bailey, so I have to add a little bit of Bailey's. So.
Well, therein lies, yes, that I can go that route as well.
It's very dense and heavy, but it's good. It's a good.
So where might your name have come from a little of that?
It did not. It came from a show my parents watched way back when, but we can think that it came from Bailey's.
Okay.
And welcome to everyone that's just joining. We're going to kickstart in just about a minute here. We want to let people trickle in. We had a little over 500 registrants, so I know we'll have some more people drop in just a few minutes, but familiarize yourself with the screen. On the bottom, you'll see a Q&A box, and that's where you can post any questions throughout today's session. And then you'll also see a chat box. And in the chat box is where you can go ahead and post you'll see the links that we mentioned throughout today's session. We'll kick it off in just about a minute here. I want to make sure everyone gets the chance to trickle on in.
Bailey, have you got all your Christmas shopping done?
That I have done, but UPS has been delaying me a little bit, and I did shop local for 100% of my gifts. So
very good.
I did have to ship them all to Florida though. What about you?
Yes, I'm very fortunate that my shopping, a lot of it gets done for me.
Oh, that's nice.
It is nice. We collaborate on it, but some of us like to get out in the crowds and others don't.
Well, that's good. You can do the drink making. Someone else does the gift shopping. That works.
I'll be out in the yard getting rid of the rest of the leaves and doing that kind of stuff.
There you go. Divvy up the work. Well, we're going to go ahead and kick off today's session. So welcome everyone to Alignable's Education Small Business Essentials series. We've created this series to help you, our 7.5 million members, give a unique access to the people and ideas that can help you drive greater business success. I'm Bailey Pricey, and I lead partnerships over here at Alignable, and I have the pleasure of hosting today's event on frustrated finding staff that'll say, strategies to help you retain and hire hourly workers so you can focus on growing and running your business in 2023. So why are we presenting on this today? Well, in a recent survey that we sent out to Alignable members, we reported that many small businesses said one of their top 10 challenges was finding and retaining hourly local workers. Today, we have our expert guest, Mark Emery from Juvo Jobs, here to help. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Juvo Jobs, Mark developed this app along with his wife that is now helping thousands of small businesses hire hourly local workers. We'll give some more information during the last 10 minutes to see if it's a good solution for you to utilize to help you hire as we enter into 2023. Today's session will cover a few things. One, how to find local employees that want to stick around. 2, creating a playbook to hire right in 2023. And 3, finding the best places to find hourly local workers. A little bit more about Mark before we dive in. So Mark Emery is an HR technology expert who has founded several companies. He has extensive experience in raising capital to bring products to market, which create return on investment. With over 30 years of experience in hiring and HR tech, Mark was called a serial entrepreneur from Forbes. He has led countless workshops and webinars with employers and is very present in the HR industries. So we're so lucky to have Mark here today on today's session. Few things before we dive in. We're going to kick it off with 20-minute presentation followed by 20 minutes of Q&A. During the last 10 minutes, we'll actually walk through how Mark's application Juvo Jobs works to see if it's a good tool to help you hire in 2023. So make sure to stick around. If you'd like to continue the conversation, there's also a group on Alignable called Hiring Hourly Workers, which is powered by the Juvo Jobs team. In this group, you can ask experts for hiring help, attend small event sessions on hiring topics, post questions, find hiring resources, or even post hiring resources and your expertise yourself. So you can find a link in the chat on where you can go ahead and join that group. We'll also be posting a link in the chat where you can give any follow-up questions or key takeaways, or even give your own expertise. And lastly, be on the lookout for the event recording and all the links mentioned in tomorrow's follow-up email. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Mark, and we'll kickstart today's session. So welcome, Mark. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Bailey. I've gotten to know you a little bit over the last year or two, and that's the longest I've ever heard you talk.
Wow. Okay.
So,
a little much, a little bit of a mouthful.
Well, thanks for having us and the rest of the team that's all behind the scenes and everything else. We're excited, as always. Really enjoy the relationship with Alignable, working with the membership, and once again, I think the mission is awesome, which is you mentioned in your Christmas shopping, which is local, and it's extraordinarily important in shopping and supporting your local communities, and that's very much a similar mission that we have. So we're glad to be here and excited to work with you.
Well, you couldn't have said it better. So I'm going to pass the baton off to you, though, and we'll kickstart today's session. So get ready when you're ready.
Well, it's an interesting topic that you guys, as you did your survey and came around, when it's interesting when you're talking about frustrated employers who are trying to find staff who will stay. As we started collaborating with you guys about this topic, there's so many different things that come into play when you're talking about it. So as we go through this process, I'm sure that there'll be questions and as many comments that come through. So for all of you out there that are listening and have questions, please do hit that Q&A. And it is very much questions, but we'd love to hear your comments as well and experiences that you're having, so we can help try to address what you're doing, and something that you're experiencing might be similar to somebody else. So we'd love to have you please contribute as much as possible. So Bailey, if you want to just go ahead and kind of lead us through here. One of the things that I hear all the time is, what's happening? Where is everybody? Nobody wants to work. What's happening in, probably more specifically right now, the hourly hiring process industry. And interestingly enough, it's not an industry in itself, but it is a work environment, shift work, and those kind of things. And you guys may hear my dog barking because there's somebody pulling up the driveway. So we'll talk about working from home in a little while. Bailey, go ahead and let's jump into it. There's a lot of things that are happening in the employment industry, specifically to the hourly side. Demographic shifts are one that probably not as many people think about, but when we live in it as much as we do with Juvo, we study a lot of the demographics and understand more of what's going on. One thing that we find interesting that people don't necessarily realize is that since 2006-ish, 7, the birth rate in the United States is down almost 30%. That in itself, if you think about it, and the hourly worker, the average age of the hourly worker is around 27 years old. But when you look at 2006 and then where we sit today, those are the typical workers who are coming into hourly jobs. Now, a lot of times people will have an hourly job and move through on salary, but statistics and the U.S. workforce, over 55% of the U.S. workforce are hourly employees. And when you have a 30% drop in the sheer birth rate, it's dramatic. You're talking about 70, 80 million jobs that you need 70 or 80. Actually, you probably need, because a lot of them are part-time, you're probably looking at well over 100 million people. And when you have a 30% drop rate, 30% is pretty significant in just the availability of workers. So I think that's one that not a lot of people talk about. We hear all the time. People say nobody wants to come to work. There's nobody out there who wants to work. Well, I don't know that I agree with that. I think definitely as we get into number two, the different expectations. But number one is truly just the sheer bodies that are there are a much smaller number than there used to be. Now, when you talk about different expectations, without a doubt, and a lot of times I hear myself say, I sound like my parents. It is different. Technology is different. Expectations across the board are different. I don't know if, a lot of times when I was in college and everything else, it was everybody got a trophy. And that demographic or that age group of people grew up very differently than people who are in their 60s. And so there's a lot of expectations that are hit. A lot of it comes around technology. Today's hourly worker, again, I'm gonna hover that in the 17 to 34-year-old range, which is where the vast majority live as far as the age group of the hourly worker. They're there, because I'm not in that range, their expectations of technology are very different. Technology isn't intrusive, it's expected. It's a part of convenience. Now I can sit in almost any room and ask a question and get an answer without having to type, without having to look anything up when you're talking about the Alexas and the Googles, which would be really funny if I yelled out, hey, one or the other. Out of all the people on here, I wonder how many rooms would fire up with, how can I help you? So understanding the people that we are looking to hire and find and attract, it's important to understand their expectations are different. And then another component of it that has been ushered in a very dramatic way is working from home. There are a ton of jobs that you are able to work from home. Well, if a lot of local employers need to have their people on site, whether it's a storefront, retail, restaurant, dentist's office, all, work from home or home health care. There's a lot of people who can't work from home. And again, it's the vast majority of the workforce. But with COVID coming in and all these work from home opportunities that have come up, it has changed what people look for in jobs. So go ahead, Bailey. Let's go to the next slide. Thank you. Once again, I said, nobody wants to work. Well, that goes back to the demographic. I don't know that that's the case. When you have unemployment as low as we do, I don't think that you can say nobody wants to work. Full employment is considered at 4%, and that's been statistically the same for, I think they came up with unemployment in the early 80s, mid 80s, and full employment is at 4%, and we're below that currently, even with layoffs. And some other things that people hear, there's starting to be more and more layoffs. Well, they're at the higher wage incomes. Really, when you start to talk about the layoffs, they're probably $80,000 and up when it comes to income, not typically the wage of an hourly worker. So it's interesting that you'll hear some macroeconomic things that don't necessarily fit within your own community or what you're experiencing. Not being able to find workers, I think, goes back to the expectations. We as employers need to think about how to do it a little bit differently, and we'll talk about those things in a few minutes. And then back to the people aren't coming to work. Well, if I have to have somebody on site or go on site to one of my locations, whether it's construction, for example, is another example, going at-home services, whether I'm helping clean homes, healthcare. There's a lot of different expectations out there when it comes to saying, people aren't coming to work. There are things that we can do, and we'll talk about those, that help differentiate you in why you want to get somebody who's excited to get out of the house, potentially. There's a lot of people like that. Go ahead, Bailey. Let's keep flipping through. Yeah, one of the things that I'll quote my wife. She loves the new year. As soon as everybody is finished opening presents on Christmas. By the way, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah to those of the Jewish faith. I know Hanukkah's going on right now, but in my house, when the last present is opened, my wife is ready to clean up, clean out, and work on the new year. And there's some things that we'll talk about here in just a few minutes that talk about new strategies on what to do and how to think about hiring people. First of all, you can't hire them if you don't find them. So you have to start thinking differently about where to look for them and how to look for them. And then you have to think about what are things that differentiate you from the big box stores, for example. And there's some really cool things. And we actually did a webinar with you guys, Bailey, on how to differentiate small business hiring from the big box, if you will, in large companies. One of the things that I would say first and foremost is to simplify the process. Think a little bit differently. If you continue to do this, Chuck would remember this, but doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome has a definition. So as you are going, I can't find anybody or nobody wants to come to work, you got to start thinking differently. And it will pay off for you if you are somebody who can do that. Simplify your process. Keep it as the fewer the steps, the better. Now, if you're hiring someone who is expected to be on site or communicating with a lot of other employees within your organization or with your customer base, one of the most important things is the way that they present themselves. So a lot of the process today, job boards will have you fill out a bunch of information, answer a job description that I know we all love to write. And we all know that nobody reads because we all complain about nobody read the job description. Why are they applying? So there are things you can do to help simplify, not necessarily just on a job board, but there are a lot of other tools out there. Talk to your Chamber of Commerce, talk to other employers about things that you can do to work together to share employees. If I only need somebody for 4 hours a day, you need somebody for 4 hours a day, but we are close within proximity to each other. Maybe that one good employee can work for both of us. Another thing, focusing on speed, 100%. One of the key things. We deal with millions and millions of job seekers, and simplicity, critical. Speed to response is probably even further up the chain. I think I would say that that's the first thing on the chain, actually, is because these people need to work. They're looking for income. If in fact they have found your role, your opening, you want to get back to them as quickly as possible, because the average person who is actively looking for work is applying to 10 jobs. So the first person who gets in typically is the first person who has a shot. And it goes back to differentiating. A lot of people think, oh, I review my applicants on Fridays. Okay, well, if somebody applied to your role on Tuesday and you're not back to them by Tuesday or late Wednesday, I'd be very surprised if there's somebody you inevitably hire, only because they've gone to a lot of other people. And first one in, especially if they communicate well and they're clear and concise, and they're going to be snatched up much quicker than you waiting 48 hours before you get back with them. So I would say speed is critical in the process. Something else with the price of fuel and a lot of the things we talk about, expectations are different. We do this a lot. If I were to put the perfect employee in front of you based off of your job description and said, would you hire this person based off of the job description? And 9 times out of 10, people always go, yes, absolutely. That's what I said I was looking for. This is what I'm looking for. And then I go, well, they live 25 miles away. They live 15 miles away. Most of the time, if you're paying an average hourly rate, let's say of $15 to $17 an hour even, which sometimes is high, people will go, oh, ooh, they live 20 miles away. Are they the right person? And or are they going to stay with you? Going back to how do you hire people to stay? I would dare say, and I'd love, Bailey, maybe this is one of the next survey questions we can do is, what is the average tenure of employees who stay with you longer than X number of months based off of distance? So many times people will say, oh, well, they drive an hour to get here. That's a lot of money in a gas tank to be able to come to your place of employment. And I pass a lot of other places. So I would encourage you to really focus on ways that you can hire within a local community. Alignable is all about local. They have a job listings page. I would encourage everyone to look at that and put your jobs there, because local truly is key. It's not just for your customers, but your employees as well. And as we're talking about all these changes, it's important to understand the audience that you're going for. Not necessarily who I am and what I'm used to, but how do I attract people for me to come, that want to come work in my location? Go ahead, Bailey. You know, it's interesting when we talk about the remote work, the average person is built for socialization. Without a doubt, working from home is difficult. Now, if you're a storefront, a warehouse, once again, construction or home services, you need people to be out there. So I would focus on the value of getting out of the house, getting off the couch, getting out and working with people. There's a lot of things that you can do there. Flexibility. We as employers have to be flexible. I would always recommend overhiring because you want flexibility. You may find the perfect person who says, I can work Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 to 5. If that person is local and meets the needs that you're looking for, hire the person. And then look for somebody who wants to work Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or can handle the morning shift. We have to be flexible with our jobs. And I know it's not always the easiest thing, but we as business owners need to figure out how to run our businesses in the most profitable way, which might be hiring. If I typically can run my organization with 8 people, I may need to hire 12, but to work the shifts that are needed, and they will stay longer. So it's our job to help create an environment where people want to come to, number one, want to stay, and want to produce for us. There are things that you can do to be more excited to work with. Commuter benefits. I was talking with an employer the other day who has a few employees that have been with her for a long time. She offers a fuel card because they live out, and as the price of gas went up, one of the benefits is you get $20 a month towards a fuel card. You've got to create the culture. You know, and I always tell people, when you're hiring someone, I've got 4 adult children. When you're hiring someone, think about, would I want my child working there? And why would I want them working there versus across the street? We all the time get employers saying, can you please help us? Can you please help us? Well, I don't know yet. And they'll say, oh boy, well, my business, I can only pay $12 an hour. The business across the street's paying 14, 15, 17. Well, where would I want my child to work? Here or here? Differentiate yourself. If you can't meet the pay rates that you're competing locally with, you better be more fun, you better be more flexible, or you better find different ways to attract those people who want to be there. Go ahead, Bailey. this is one of the things that I find interesting. Ask other business owners, go around to the people around you. If they're a direct competitor, coffee shop to coffee shop, warehouse to warehouse, maybe not necessarily, but if they're good employees, be willing to share them. If they're already there, if they're in the same shopping center, if they're very close by, collaborate with other businesses to be able to say, hey, can we do this? Do you have anybody who's really good that might need to work extra hours? Because you close at 5, I'm open till 9. Would it be appropriate to talk to that person to help give them benefit? Maybe they need more money. We've done this in quite a few different situations where you got a bagger at a grocery store that ended up working for a restaurant in the same strip mall, because they would go to work for lunch, leave, come back, bag, come back for dinner, and ended up with a whole schedule. Well, that worked great for both employers because it was very helpful to the employee or the job seeker. We talked about Alignable and their job network that they have. Talk to other people on Alignable. Talk about how they do stuff. Talk about, is anybody in this area who might have a good employee that only works part-time that might need more hours? Collaborate. It's interesting to me that I can walk through a strip mall and see help wanted signs on every door, but the employers really don't know each other. They don't talk about, hey, it's busy for me this time of day. What about you? Is there other times that you're not that busy? So just think differently. And obviously there's, with people within Alignable, Juvo, we're here to try to be as helpful as possible to help think of some of these strategies. Go ahead, Bailey. The loyalty comes from the employer. And it's really funny. It actually starts before you hire the person. There was a slide earlier that talked about your job description. Job descriptions are boring. Nobody likes to write them. So what can you do to differentiate and start that relationship before? So many employers don't give themselves the choice of who to pick because they're busy screening them all out before they ever get to me, and I'm a fun person to work with. The job boards are boring. Every click, you have a 50% drop off. If I have to fill out this super long questionnaire or an application process, what months did I work here and here? Well, as the employer, look, it's on the job training. I'm a fun place to work. Get rid of all of that stuff just in the beginning. Give yourself a choice, because if I decide you're too much of a pain to even start the process to find out if I'm interested in working there. Yes, I said I'm interested in working there because you have to attract them. You gotta sell people on why to come to work for you. I don't know many people who are miserable and love going to work where they're miserable. So you want to create that environment that it's fun to work at, and that starts in your whole process. Talk to the people as soon as they express interest. Jump out there and say, look, man, we're looking for people who work really hard. We're a fun place to be. You are going to work hard, or it's long hours, or we need people on Wednesday afternoons who can crush it for us, that are willing to spend time with our blah, 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 blah. Be excited, be different. That sets the groundwork for your ability to hire and have choices, as opposed to have to go. If you only have one person, it's that person or nothing. So get creative and be creative in the way that you start that relationship with people. That starts the culture. You want to make sure that people are interested in wanting to come to work. To be sporadic with stuff. It can be a really boring job. That's okay if the environment is fun. So once again, think a little bit out of your box. I used to run a large format printing operation. I'd go back into pick and packing in the warehouse, and it was, everybody had headphones in, except for the ones who would put one out for safety reasons. So we created an environment where music would play, and we would have games going on throughout the day, that if somebody heard this, which might have been a safety tip or something coming through the loudspeakers, they would get a chip. And at the end of the week, the person with the most chips would get a bonus. $15, $25. It's amazing how far that stuff goes. And employers aren't used to that. They don't necessarily think about that at scale. Your current staff is a huge opportunity. If they like working there, you shouldn't have trouble hiring. If you've created the right environment and your employees, current employees, are loyal and love working for you, you should be able to hire at will whenever you need it, because the people who are there love it so much. I mean, it's brand recognition. Everybody here loves a brand of some sort. Why do you love that brand? And would you be willing to refer that brand? You have to create a brand and a culture within your business, your four walls, your organization out on the construction site, or your home health provider who's going into other people's houses. You can create a culture that makes it exciting or fun or caring or all the above, that they'll refer people to you. Your current employee base is your best way to find new employees. Go ahead, Bailey. I can't wait for the questions or more comments, because maybe people are going to try to blow me off on this, but it's fun. So with that, Bailey, where are we on time? How are we doing?
Well, you couldn't have nailed it better. You're right at the half hour, but wow, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Mark, for providing all that expertise. I mean, you really gave some tidbits and unique advice that I hope everyone here can take away to help you retain and find local employees. So in addition to educating all of our alignable members, we also want to be able to provide you with the tools to be able to act on a lot of this education. And that's why we've partnered with Mark and Juvo Jobs to help our alignable small businesses find hourly local workers. So we've actually been able to work with them to create a really cool offer for alignable members. If you're looking to fill hourly roles, Juvo Jobs specializes in exactly that. And you can get access to local candidates right around your business. So as an alignable member, your business and jobs can be added to their network for free. Simply by filling out the form in the chat, they'll post your jobs to their network on the Juvo Jobs app and contact you via your email provided when candidates are interested. So we'll go ahead and post a link in the chat on where you can utilize that as an alignable member. And then just remember that you will receive that email from Juvo Jobs once you've received candidates that are interested in your open role. So we're excited to be able to offer that to our alignable members, and you can save that link as well for any future dates that you'd like to post those roles. In addition to that, we want to take a moment and allow everyone that wanted to opt in for future alignable education events. So as a reminder, Alignable Education Small Business Essentials series is a series we've created for our members to give you unique access to the people and ideas that can help you drive greater business success. So you can also find a link in the chat on where to access that form to opt in. And lastly, if you have questions now, we're going to be diving into the Q&A. So make sure to post any questions in the Q&A box. If you don't have any questions now or you want to ask them later on, make sure to join the Hiring Hourly Local Workers group that is powered by Juvo Jobs. You can find a link as well to the special promo to post your roles in their community, as well as get access to the Juvo team, as well as other hiring experts within that group. So with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and dive into the Q&A portion of today's session. So we have many questions that have come through, Mark. So we're going to start with one that was from Jamie. And Jamie says, I have interviewed and hired 20 people over the past year, and only 15 showed up for their first week. And only 10 have stayed for at least a few months. What am I doing wrong?
Well, first of all, that's good. Those numbers are not bad. It feels bad to you, but actually I would say, Jamie, that you don't get too down on yourself. I would look back at it and think, okay, out of the ones who showed up, what was it? Was there something that I didn't communicate, or were they? The number one thing that we find is it's too far. I took the job because I knew that I had another week and I had 3 other people waiting on me. So that goes back to the how do I differentiate myself? How do I get these people like, I'm excited that I'm going to go work here. So getting the 15 to show up, talk to them and say, what was it? Was I your only choice? Ugh. No, I don't want to be the only choice. I want to be your best choice. And then as long as, keeping people in place, what we know is turnover in the hourly workforce has been over 80%, 67, but average about 80% for 50 years. It happens. It just continually happens, especially if you have shift work for people. The life events change for people. We call them the seasons, and I'm not politically correct. I'm just saying that's what we've kind of nailed out for it. And not many people live places, they stay places because they move around. It's much more of a active world from where you started with a job and you stayed with it until you retired. Today's environment, it allows for a tremendous amount of mobility. So people move around. And when I go from here, maybe I went to a different apartment or living across town and I found a job over here. So location, we have found, and income's really under $20, $25 an hour. Proximity of where I'm staying or living to work is the number one reason people leave. So I would encourage you to look at that and make that a key part of the way that you go about interviewing people and hiring people. If in fact you want to keep people, if you're a fantastic potential employee, I really would like to keep you. We're going to offer, like we talked about, a gift card, a gas card, something to incentivize that person to want to make that trek, to put it in their gas tank to get to work with you.
I think that's a great response. Awesome. So I hope we found some value in that, Jamie. Next question we have is from Quinn, who said, how do you feel about hiring seniors, folks over 65 to help? And can I find a lot of folks in that age range on Juvo? There are some of the folks with the best work ethic, but I don't know how to find enough of them and how to phrase it in an ad while still being politically correct.
Yeah, so great question. If your work environment is such that doesn't require, a lot of agility and those kind of things, you know your environment. The AARP age group of people are without a doubt fantastic options in workforce. We with Juvo, we actually, it's really interesting. We kind of hit the spectrum of people. Now you wouldn't think that the older AARP population live on mobile apps, but they do. I have to admit, I've been wrong quite a few times in the number of people with the age who have apps. But again, flexibility, I think even with that demographic is very important. I might be able to work for 5 hours one day. Okay, we'll hire 5 people. If the work it doesn't require a lot of continuity of what I left and did, be flexible, hire more people than you're going to need to meet their needs of flexibility. So to answer your question, yes, and great option for yourself is being able to bring in people of all age groups.
Awesome. Great answer. So next question we have is from an anonymous, and I think this is a great one. They said, what can you do when you're a small business owner and can't afford competitive pay?
Close. I love a pregnant pause.
I knew you were joking there.
Well, but you have to find ways. I mean, that's just a fact of life. I mean, it is hard. It's hard. My kids would say that I had the rule of one. I was a hard parent. If your business can't, that's what I love about a marketplace of, if I'm paying $10 and somebody across the street is paying 12, I better be a heck of a lot more fun to hang out with and want to be with more flexibility, more hours, merch, games, hire their friends who want to be there, create a culture that it's harder to compete with culture than it is pay rate. So focus on your culture. And again, it starts from when you start to interview people. Be attractive. Whatever your business is, you have customers who want to come pay you. It's either the quality, the experience, the service. Well, you gotta think that same way when you're talking about hiring people. You've got to be that. Probably a little not a fun answer, but I think it's true.
I think it's a great answer. You know, both my mom works at a small local retail store, and she appreciates when her owner just listens to her and makes those subtle gestures. Like I remember my mom said she loves Vans, and next week her owner came in with a pair of Vans for her. And she was like, wow, they're actually listening to me. And it was like the tiniest gesture, but it shows loyalty. So,
that's the least expensive thing that you can do, but it absolutely is the highest profit margin. Having your employees love you, your brand, your place, their experience, it pays dividends, and people can't compete with a good culture. It's hard. It's hard.
Very true. So next question we have is from Anonymous, and it's a little long, but I'm going to read through it. They said, I hire people at higher wages and they don't work, or they aren't able to do the work. I treat them well, but they just want to use their experience to put on their resume. The work they describe on their resumes are exaggerated. They didn't do any of the work for me. Also, they are treating the job as a side hustle. This hurts me as a small business owner. Do you have any suggestions for this person?
All I'll say is most of the time, people don't quit a company, they quit a manager. And that goes back to the previous Anonymous. Maybe it's the same person, I don't know. But one person just said, I can't afford the pay rate and I have turnover. The other person said, I pay high, but I have turnover. Would that be correct? Did I hear both of those somewhat the same?
Yep.
I would highly recommend you work on culture and realizing, look, turnover happens. What can I do to you or for you as a potential employee that makes you want to stay? If you live far away, are you sure you want to spend the time in the car? Because my guess is as soon as you find something closer to where you're staying, you're probably going to leave. Okay, I need to understand that and accept that. Or I need to work really hard because I think Bailey is a phenomenal person and an asset to my business. So I need to make sure she is willing and excited to be coming in every day or whatever day she can. And if she can't come in, she needs to know that we are excited when she can come back. It's just a different process. To run a business, most of the time you have to be financial and very focused. Well, our employees aren't business owners. They're working as a part of our business, and I want to make them feel like they have ownership, but they don't think that way. That's a general statement, but it's just you gotta treat them like family. Or don't. What's next, baby?
Love that last line. All right, next question. So next question we have is from Mike, who says, many of our competitors 1099 their employees, which is illegal, but allows them to pay more. How can we combat that?
So 1099ing is not illegal. I'm not an attorney, but I've been around this stuff for a long time. 1099 is not illegal. Previously, many years ago, you couldn't 1099 someone for more than 18 months. But even then, they had to leave for 1 month and they could be back on 1099. So I'm not sure where that particular the statement of 1099, someone is not illegal. The process, part of the reason more than likely that they're doing that is, number one, either they don't want to provide benefits. So if you're W-2ing somebody, hammer home on the benefits. And if I think a lot of employers who hammer home on benefits will find that their employee base would rather have more money. So think about where you're putting the money for your employees. And when an employee is 1090, or not an employee, because a contractor is 1099, they have to deal with the taxes. So if I'm hiring you as a W-2, and you maybe were over here in that same kind of role with a competitor as a 1099, let me show you why this $15 an hour job doesn't bring home nearly as much as this $12 an hour job, and educate them on the taxes and the way that that all happens. And it might, it might bite them, it might not. You don't want to scare people, but you want to educate people appropriately. So in that scenario, we have found that individuals want a W-2 for security reasons. Now, we also know that they change jobs a lot, or turnover happens. But very rarely have I gotten in an Uber, and I would, another good survey question, gotten in an Uber, a Lyft, or some kind of gig work where the person didn't say, well, this isn't my full-time job. So be the place that they want to say is my full-time job, or I work here because it's cool, I'm proud of it, or it's a really good environment. Again, I'm beating a dead horse here on differentiating why you want to be the place.
No, I think it's that just really makes it go to show how important it is as an owner to be the place that someone wants to show up to. It's critical in retainment. So we have time for one last question, and then we'll actually have time to go over how Juvo Jobs could be a solution for all of our alignable members to help you hire your hourly local workers. So last question, I'm going to combine two. So we have one from Robert and one from Kavanek, and they both have seasonal businesses. So one hires 100 employees for 2 months of the year for their family farm, and the other owns a summer day camp. And they hire many of their counselors that are college students. So for Kavanek, they're wondering what incentives to give their employees to show up. And Robert is wondering how to be competitive against, college students seeking summer internships. So suggestions for both of those kind of seasonal use cases when hiring for employees.
I used to sell Christmas trees. I'm not sure that one's what he's doing, but yes, I used to work November and December selling Christmas trees. Seasonal work is a very different kind of worker. To the point, it may be somebody coming home from school. It may be somebody who isn't in school, but takes advantage of the weather. I mean, there is a huge population of the employment of the workers out there who like to live somewhere warm in the summer and then, or in the winter, and want then as good with moving to the resorts in the summer. So there is a huge workforce that will do those seasonal shifts. The reason turnover is been consistent for over the 55 years is because of the shift in school, migrating home or with friends over the holidays, and then migrating back. You have to think a little differently and get ahead of the game. If in fact you typically, if you want students who come home for the summer, go hang out at the sorority houses, the fraternity houses a month before finals, and find out who's going to be there. Go to the local colleges and universities or in the tech schools and say, hey, I've got this great opportunity. You'll get work experience. We'll do a social write-up for you on your LinkedIn profile if they're of people who want to continue and move up, if they have LinkedIn. Even with Juvo, we had an intern program that we would reach out and provide benefits to people, say, look, this is a good experience. We're currently right now hiring for BDRs. And we're saying, look, spend 6 weeks with us. We're fun, we're cool, we're doing these kind of things, and we'll provide you this after you're gone. You'll get experience on this, you'll get the opportunity, we'll put this in your LinkedIn profile. We'll help you write your resume. We'll give you something on your resume. So make it about the people, not the job. And I think in both, well, in any instance, but those specifically, I think that you'll definitely differentiate yourself, unfortunately, but in a good way.
I love that. I think that's a great way to wrap it up before we go ahead and dive into this next session of the event. A few things I just want to call out to everyone. So if you are missing any of these links or you missed the first half of today's session, not to worry, we are going to send a recording in tomorrow's follow-up email. And I also wanted to touch on, we're going to go ahead and dive into an overview of how Juvo Jobs could help your business. Just a reminder to everyone, so Juvo Jobs is an application helping thousands of small businesses hire hourly local workers, and we've partnered with their team to help Alignable members find different roles for your businesses that are specifically for candidates that are right around your business's location. So Mark talked a lot about proximity, and so their application really helps so you know that those workers are close by. So what they're offering Alignable members is the ability to post your open roles for free on Juvo Jobs. So we'll go ahead and put a link in the chat on where you can go ahead and do that. And with that being said, we're going to dive into the next portion of today's event, where we're actually going to go through the Juvo Jobs platform. So Mark, I'm going to hand it back to you, and feel free to stick around for this portion or hop off. But we'd love to have you on to continue and watch how the application can help your business.
Yeah, so kind of the things that we talked about in this work environment, one of the things that we find is location is key. As we were talking about those last two questions, seasonal. Well, I'm in school, I'm going back. So location seems to be one of the primary reasons. I love the little poof that just happened there. I'm not sure what that was.
Really funny. I didn't know that was going to happen.
I think there's also supposed to be people on that screen.
Let's see. We're going to start over. There we go.
Anyway, location in this kind of an environment is hugely important, if not the primary thing. As we talked about, I could show you somebody who's perfect from your job description and they live 20 miles away. Who wants to drive 20 miles for a 4-hour shift? So we really, after millions and millions of jobs and seekers, realize location, especially in this environment, is one of the primary things. So we built an app specifically based on location primary, and then other avenues after. Tell me what your job experience has been. And then we will take it from there and how to communicate with them. So go ahead to the next slide. We'll just go through this kind of quickly. For employers, because we know that turnover is constant, if you're not hiring today, the only tools you have are to go post a job on a job board and you pay for X number of days to have your ad on that job board. Well, what happens is you got to be on the right job board in the right 20-day period of time that person that you locally want to hire is there. And it just so happens you're on page 42 or page 2. It doesn't matter. If you're not on page 1 and in the top, nobody sees your role. So what we did with Juvo is say, we want to make it very relevant all the time. And we will kind of cross over as a Yelp in that your company, your location is on our network all the time, because we want to create awareness for you. Now, if you're not hiring at the moment because you just filled the role, the app actually manages the expectations of the seeker to say, hey, Bailey's not interested right now. Would you like to stay in contention for later when Bailey's interested? Or would you like to remove yourself? Because we know people need to work. So we've built it very specific to get the people piece of this thing back into play. We've built it where when people apply to roles and they want to connect with you, they'll do a video and they'll answer a few questions specifically to, hi, here's why I think I'm a good worker. There are things that we do within the app for you to connect quickly. Nobody answers emails, nobody answers phone calls anymore. Text is even becoming, spammy. So we built it where we know that the seeker will reply because they see, okay, there's an in-app communication coming from an employer on Juvo's network. So I know it's an employer reaching out to me. So we've tried to simplify the process and give the biggest opportunity for awareness of the employer's location and opportunities, two seekers who are within a radius that might make sense to potentially hire, and then put the people piece of it back together. Go ahead. The way that we have talked about this is to put the people piece of it back into place. Location, conversation, interest, further conversation, and then it's up to you. We can't hire, people always say, what's your hire rate? Can't answer that. I don't know what your pay rate is. I don't know what your culture is. But what we've tried to do is say, we want to create, if you're a cool place and want to be on the network, you don't even have to do a job description. We give you, the employer, the ability to do a video to differentiate yourself, to say, hi, my name's Mark. I have a storefront here, or I have a warehouse, or I have a construction facility that we're looking for people who are willing to work hard. You get time off. We try to be flexible with your schedules. We've got a lot of people who are here. Look at my employees around me who are having fun or working hard, but we work hard, but we pay well. Or, if you're here and you're present all the time and you're really excited about being with us, if you can impact our business, we want to impact your career. We want to impact your job. We want to be the place that you want to come to every day. So we give employers the opportunity to speak to seekers at mass, as opposed to, nobody read my job description, or I can't post my job because I haven't written this long job description. So that's us. We're Juvo Jobs. We're in the App Store, Juvo Jobs. You can find the link on the Alignable website. We might be able to help. We hope to be able to help, but we can't always break down everything.
Awesome.
Okay.
This was a fantastic session, and to everyone here, we hope you found tons and tons of value. As a reminder, we will be sending a recording in tomorrow's follow-up email along with all of the links mentioned. If you would like to leverage Juvo Jobs to hire hourly local workers, you can find the link in the chat on where you can post your roles for free. And then the Juvo Jobs team will reach out to you directly once you have candidates that are interested in your open roles. And if you would like to stay in the loop on future Alignable education events, we'll also post a link in the chat on where you can opt in. As a reminder, this is a series that we've created for our Alignable members, and we're pulling all of these different topics together because of the surveys and discussions and conversations that you've had on Alignable, so that we can bring you the unique people and experts to help you overcome, whether they be challenges or whether they be just guidance, especially as we head into the new year, letting you guys start off the new year with success. And with that being said, thank you, Mark, for being here. And to everyone, we'll see you at the next one.
Thanks, guys, very much. Happy New Year.
Bye, everyone.